Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here, as always, is to take these stacks of documents, the wanted papers, the on-chain data, all that dense material, and turn it into knowledge you can actually use.
And today we are tackling something that I think everyone in DeFi, especially on Solana, has felt at some point, that sinking feeling.
The rug pull. The moment you check a chart and see a token you believed in, or at least were speculating on, has gone to absolute zero.
Right, it just shatters confidence, and it's this persistent, almost accepted risk in these high-speed ecosystems. A token can launch and die in, what, an hour? And often it's because the developers just pull all the liquidity and disappear.
It's the ultimate betrayal of trust, and that's exactly why we're focusing on this project today. It's called Tuna, a Solana-based launchpad. The token address for anyone following along is GFLD 9EQN7A1 DUJOPYVJ of AGHEHQH20DME WF882 WKW8 pump.
And their entire thesis, the whole reason for their existence, is that they think they can solve this problem. Not with promises, not with, trust us, we're good guys.
But with code, with hard-coded structural mechanics.
Exactly. So what we have in front of us is a collection of their documents, some analyses of their burn mechanisms, and on-chain transaction data. Our mission for you, the listener, is to give you a shortcut, to really understand how TUNA is trying to build a safer launch environment.
We're going to break down the specific financial engineering they're using. So let's start at the top. The sources make a big deal about their deflationary model being different. What's the initial big picture takeaway that separates TNA from the thousands of other tokens that claim to burn supply?
The core distinction, and this really informs everything else they do, is that TUNA's deflation is event-driven. It's driven by platform usage.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
Yeah.
Event-driven versus what's the alternative?
The alternative is what we usually see, time-driven burns.
Wow.
A project says, hey, big announcement, next quarter we're going to burn 10% of the supply.
Right, it's a marketing event.
It's a marketing event. And it relies on a big pile of tokens the team is holding in their treasury. It's a finite resource. TUNA's approach is completely different. The deflationary engine is funded and executed automatically based on real-time economic activity.
So if people are actually using the launchpad, trading tokens, launching new projects,
then the supply shrinks automatically. It's a direct mechanical link between the platform's utility and the token's scarcity. It's not a promise, it's just a function of the system.
Okay, that's a powerful idea. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of that.
Yeah.
To be event-driven, you need events that generate capital, which brings us to their core engine, this revenue-backed model.
Right, so let's start with the fee structure.
The sources outline a pretty straightforward 2% transaction fee. Now, transaction fees are nothing new in DeFi, but it's what they do with that fee, the allocation, that seems to be the first gear in this machine.
It is. It's all about creating alignment. So whenever any token on the TUNA platform gets traded, 2% of that transaction's value is collected as a fee. And that 2% is split right down the middle automatically. 1% goes directly to the creators of that token.
So if I launch a token on TUNA and it becomes popular and gets traded a lot, I'm getting a continuous 1% cut of all that volume.
Exactly. It's like a royalty. It gives creators a reason to stick around to keep building because they have a sustained revenue stream. They're not just there for a one-and-done launch.
That makes sense. It incentivizes quality projects. So what about the other 1%?
That's the crucial part for TUNA's own mechanics. The other 1% is allocated to the system. It becomes protocol revenue. And that is the fuel for the whole deflationary engine we were just talking about.
I see. So it's not coming from some pre-mined team treasury that's slowly being depleted. It's constantly being refilled by the platform's own activity.
That's the fundamental difference. When you hear about projects burning tokens from their treasury, you have to ask, what happens when that treasury runs out? It's an unsustainable model. It's like burning your furniture to keep the house warm.
And it's reactive, right? The team decides when to do a burn, maybe to pump the price or counter some bad news.
Precisely. It's a PR move. TUNA's model is proactive and perpetual. As long as the platform has users, it has revenue. As long as it has revenue, it has capital for buybacks and burns. The utility is the deflation mechanism. Theoretically, it can run forever.
That's a powerful structural argument. But the sources also point to a very aggressive short-term incentive on top of this, something designed to kickstart demand for the TUNA token itself.
Yeah, this is a really clever bit of financial engineering. They call it the 24-hour distribution.
Okay, break that down.
So that 1% system fee we just talked about, Specifically, the portion that's collected in the first 24 hours of a new token launch, which is almost always the period with the highest trading volume.
Right, when the hype is at its peak.
That fee is collected and then immediately distributed to the top 200 to 300 TUNA token holders. It's a flash reward, a dividend for being a top holder.
Okay, let's play this out. I'm a crypto whale. I hear a huge new meme coin is about to launch on TUNA. I know that 1% of the insane volume from the first day is going to be handed out to the top 300 TUNA holders. What do I do?
You go on the open market
Yeah.
and you buy a ton of TUNA tokens immediately. You do it before the launch so that you get into that top 300 bracket.
So it creates this artificial but very real buy pressure for the TUNA token itself ahead of every single major launch on the platform.
It's a brilliant way to link the success of new projects directly to demand for their own token. People aren't just buying TUNA to speculate on its price, they're buying it to get a claim on the platform's revenue.
But hold on, let's be critical for a second. Rewarding only the top 300 holders. Doesn't that just encourage centralization? It sounds like a system that benefits the whales, who can then accumulate and maybe even manipulate the price right before launch.
That is absolutely a valid critique. It does centralize the immediate benefit, and it could lead to volatility as people jockey for position in that top bracket. I don't think the goal here is perfect decentralized fairness in the short term.
The goal is stability through engineered demand.
Exactly. The goal is to create powerful, reliable buy pressure that supports the token's floor price. The argument would be that over time, as the platform grows, more and more people will want to get into that bracket, which could broaden the distribution. But you're right, it definitely starts by favoring large early holders. It's a trade-off, velocity and stability over immediate decentralization.
It's a very pragmatic, almost cynical mechanism, uses greed as a tool for platform health. It makes every major TUNA holder a direct stakeholder in the success of every new launch.
And that's a powerful alignment. Okay, so that's the foundational layer, but this is just where the capital comes from. The next part, this tuna mode, is where they start creating these feedback loops.
Right, the sources call it a recursive mechanism. This is where the multi-layered description really starts to make sense. What exactly is tuna mode?
So tuna mode is an opt-in feature for developers launching a new token. When they choose to launch in tuna mode, they're basically agreeing to embed an extra deflationary mechanic into their own token's contract.
An extra one, on top of the 2% we already talked about.
On top of it, yes. This mechanism takes an additional 0.5% from all swaps involving their new token, and it sends that 0.5% directly back to the TUNA deflationary fund.
Wait, so let me get this straight. I launch a token, let's call it Rocket Coin. In tuna mode, every time anyone, anywhere, buys or sells Rocket Coin.
A tiny slice, 0.5% of that trade value flows back to TUNA.
Wow, okay, now I see the recursive loop. Imagine TUNA has launched 10, 20, 100 successful tokens.
No, you've got it. All of those tokens are out there in the wild, trading against SOL, trading against each other. And every single one of those trades is sending a little bit of capital back to the mothership.
So TUNA isn't just earning fees from its own token being traded. It's earning fees from the entire secondary market activity of every successful project it ever launched.
It's an ecosystem-wide tax, a fee capture that scales with the platform's success. If TUNA only launched duds, this mechanism would be worthless. But if it launches just one or two massive hits, the volume from those tokens alone could generate a huge, continuous stream of revenue for the TUNA buyback fund.
That's a much more sustainable model than just relying on your own token's volume. It diversifies the income stream. The success of any single project benefits the entire TUNA ecosystem by contracting the TUNA supply.
Precisely. The network effect becomes the deflationary engine. Okay, so we have these streams of capital flowing in the base 1% protocol fee, this extra 0.5% from TUNA mode tokens. The fund is constantly being refilled. What happens next?
It doesn't just sit there. The documentation is clear about an active and, maybe more importantly, a verifiable buyback strategy.
And this is where the rubber meets the road. In DeFi, trust but verify is the mantra. Anyone can say they're doing buybacks. TUNA aims to prove it. The team takes the protocol revenue, which is mostly collected in SOL, and actively uses it to buy TUNA tokens off the open market.
And then they burn them.
And then they burn them permanently.
So what's the proof? The sources must have provided some on-chain evidence.
They did, and this is crucial. It's not a theoretical promise.
Yeah.
You can go on a block explorer like Solscan and see the transactions for yourself. The specific example provided shows the team wallet swapping about 5 SOL, which is wrapped SOL, or WSOL in this case for, get this, over 950,000 TUNA tokens.
Nearly 1 million tokens in one buyback. And then what happened to them?
Sent to a burn address, gone, verifiably removed from the circulating supply.
For a project at this early stage, with a modest market cap, taking almost 1 million tokens off the market in one go, that's a significant action. It's definitive proof that the engine is running.
It's everything. That observable repetitive activity builds more trust than any white paper ever could. It changes the conversation from, we promised to do this, to, look, we are actively doing this, here's the transaction hash. You're not trusting the team's word, you're trusting the blockchain record.
And let's contrast that with the more common approach. We've all seen projects announce a huge one-time burn of, say, 50% of the supply right at the start. How does this continuous, smaller-scale buy-and-burn strategy compare structurally?
The big one-time burn is mostly psychology. It creates a narrative of scarcity, but it doesn't create ongoing buy pressure. It's a single event, a sugar rush.
A marketing stunt.
Basically, this continuous buyback model, funded by actual revenue, is completely different. It creates a constant mechanical buyer in the market. It means that regardless of whether the market is bullish or bearish, there is always some entity, the protocol itself, soaking up sell pressure and buying tokens.
So it acts as a stabilizing force, a kind of price floor that rises with platform activity.
Exactly. It's a difference between a one-time fireworks show and a constantly burning flame. It provides a much healthier, more sustainable form of supply contraction.
Okay, so this system seems robust. Multiple deflationary pressures, all tied to utility and verified on-chain. But none of this stops the original sin we started with.
The rug pull.
Exactly. A developer could still launch a token, let it run up, and then pull all the liquidity.
Yeah.
So we have to look at TUNA's ultimate defense.
Yeah.
The thing that supposedly makes a rug pull impossible.
This is the centerpiece of their whole value proposition. It all revolves around something they call the graduation trigger.
All right, what is graduation for a token?
Graduation is the moment a new token moves from its initial protected launch phase into a full-fledged stable market. The trigger, according to the documents, is when the token reaches approximately 85 SOL in its bonding curve progress.
85 SOL. Why that number? Is it arbitrary?
It doesn't seem to be. At current prices, 85 SOL is, what, somewhere around $14,000 or $15,000? It's a signal. It means the token has attracted a significant amount of real capital. It's moved past the initial tiny degen phase and has a foundational community and a real capital base.
So the proof of viability threshold, they don't want to apply the final permanent lock to a project that might just fizzle out with 2 SOL in it.
Exactly. It's a milestone that says, okay, this project has legs. It deserves to be permanently integrated into the DeFi ecosystem. Once it hits that 85 SOL mark, it graduates to a major Solana liquidity protocol called Meteora.
And this is the moment. The moment of graduation is when Tuna deploys its most extreme, most aggressive mechanism.
The 100% liquidity pool burn. This is the showstopper.
Tell us exactly what that means, 100%.
It means that upon graduation, every single one of the liquidity provider tokens, the LP tokens that represent a claim on the underlying liquidity in the pool, are permanently destroyed.
Not locked for a year. Not 99% burned with the devs keeping 1%.
100%. It is the complete and total destruction of the keys to the liquidity pool. It makes it mathematically and cryptographically impossible for anyone, including the Tuna team, including the original token developers, to ever withdraw that initial SOL.
So the liquidity becomes a permanent fixture of the market. It can never be removed.
Never. And that one action accomplishes two things at once. First, scarcity. It's another deflationary move, removing all those LP tokens from circulation. But the big one, the main event, is the second purpose.
Rug prevention.
It's the ultimate rug prevention. If you can't withdraw the liquidity, you can't rug pull, period. The problem is solved at a structural level. It moves beyond trust entirely. You don't have to trust the developer not to run away with the money because they physically can't. The option has been deleted.
Let's compare this to what we've seen before. Projects like SafeMoon or Shiba Inu had transaction-based burns, and developers would often lock liquidity for, say, 6 months or a year. How is this fundamentally different?
A time lock is still based on a promise. It's a promise that the developer won't rug you for now. But the clock is always ticking. The community has to constantly watch to see if the lock gets renewed. And the developer still holds the keys, they just can't use them yet.
The threat is delayed, not eliminated.
Right. Tuna's 100% burn eliminates the threat entirely. It's a permanent, one-way action. There's no clock to watch. There are no keys to worry about. It's a structural guarantee, not a temporary promise.
Now, there's a technical detail here that the sources point out is important for Solana. They talk about using native burn instructions. Why does that matter? Isn't burning just Sending tokens to a wallet nobody can access?
That's the old way of doing it, especially on chains like Ethereum. You'd send tokens to a dead address like the 0x0000 address. And while it works in practice, the tokens are gone, it doesn't always properly update the token's official supply count on the protocol level. It can be a bit messy.
So it's more like hiding the tokens than actually destroying them in the eyes of the blockchain's ledger.
That's a great way to put it. Solana's architecture is a bit different. It has specific native instructions built into its token program for burning. When Tuna burns those LP tokens, it's calling that official function.
What does that do?
It properly decrements the total supply metric on-chain. It's a clean, verifiable, unambiguous supply reduction. Anyone querying the blockchain for the total supply of those LP tokens will see the correct reduced number. It's just a much more elegant and transparent way of ensuring everyone knows those tokens are truly officially gone.
So the liquidity is permanently locked and verifiably destroyed. But then, how does the token trade efficiently? If the initial pool is locked away forever, how does it get access to the deep liquidity needed for a healthy market? That's where Meteor comes in.
Right. Safety is great, but a token also needs to be tradable. Graduating to Meteor's DAM solves this.
Damn, dynamic automated market maker. Let's unpack that. How is it different from a standard AMM like Uniswap or Radium?
A standard AMM is often very capital inefficient. It spreads its liquidity thinly across all possible prices. Meteor's DAM is smarter. It dynamically concentrates liquidity around the token's current trading price.
So it puts the money where the action is.
Exactly. This means you can get very low slippage and support large trades even with a smaller total amount of liquidity. By graduating to Meteora, Tuna's launch tokens get the best of both worlds.
What are those two worlds?
The first is maximum structural safety, provided by Tuna's 100% LP burn. The base liquidity is locked forever. The second is maximum capital efficiency and trading depth, provided by Meteor's advanced dynamic pools. Tuna provides the vault. Meteor provides the high-tech trading floor.
So they're basically outsourcing the market-making component to a specialized, best-in-class protocol while handling the security component themselves. It's a really smart integration.
It is. It shows they're focused on what they do best, creating a safe launch environment and leveraging the strengths of the wider Solana ecosystem for the rest.
Okay, we've covered the long-term protection, but let's rewind to the most dangerous moment for any token, the first hour of its life. This is where most projects die from instant panic selling. How does Tuna handle this?
They use bonding curves. This is another key piece of their market stability puzzle. For that critical first 60 minutes, a newly launched token does not trade in a normal AMM pool. It trades on a predefined bonding curve.
And a bonding curve's price is determined by mathematical formula, not just the buy-sell ratio in a pool, correct?
Correct. In a standard AMM, one big sell order can crash the price instantly. A bonding curve creates a predictable path for price discovery. In Tuna's case, they use a linear curve. As more SOL is put in to buy the token, the price rises in a straight, predictable line.
So it smooths out the volatility. It prevents those insane spiky charts we see in the first few minutes of a meme coin launch.
Right.
It allows for more measured price discovery.
That's the term the sources use, and it's perfect. But the bonding curve alone isn't the magic bullet, because you could still have a dump the second the 60 minutes are up and it moves to a real AMM.
So what's the other half of the solution?
It's the psychological masterstroke, the zero-loss exit feature.
Zero loss exit. That sounds too good to be true.
It's real, but it's only for that initial 60-minute window. If you buy into the token during that first hour and you decide you don't like how things are going, maybe the momentum stalls, you can sell your tokens back to the bonding curve and get your initial SOL investment back. No profit, but no loss.
Wow. So you're telling me that for the most volatile period of a token's life, the downside risk for early buyers is completely removed.
Your principal is protected. And think about what that does to the psychology of the market. The main reason people panic sell is fear of losing everything. If you remove that fear, you remove the incentive to panic. Why rush for the exit if you know you can leave calmly at any point in that hour and get your money back?
It changes the entire game. It encourages people to hold and wait for organic growth rather than trying to time a 5-minute bump and dump.
It's a structural shield for the early community. It gives the project a crucial hour of stability to find its footing before being thrown into the open ocean of the free market on Meteora.
That's a really comprehensive system. So let's put this all in context. We've talked about these powerful mechanics. What's the actual status of the Tuna ecosystem right now, based on the late December 2025 data from our sources?
It's important to remember this is still very early stage. This isn't a billion-dollar protocol. The market cap, as of the documents, was sitting around $167,000.
Okay, very small.
Very. And the circulating supply is just under a billion tokens at 994.73 million. These numbers tell you that the team is clearly focused on building the technology first, not on engineering a massive valuation out of the gate.
Which honestly is probably a good sign. And what about the on-chain activity or those buybacks we talked about still happening?
Yes, and that's the most important metric to watch here. The developer activity is consistent. Those regular buyback transactions are still occurring, proving that the capital commitment to shrinking the supply is ongoing, the engine is running, even if the car is still just getting started.
So to sum it all up, it's a platform engineering solutions for the three biggest failure points: unsustainable deflation, the risk of rug pulls, and chaotic launch volatility. It's a fascinating model.
It really is. It replaces hope and trust with structural, mathematical guarantees.
Okay, let's synthesize this for everyone listening. We've gone through a lot of detail. If you had to boil the entire TUNA model down to its three most important defining pillars, what are they?
I'd say the three pillars are: one, the revenue-backed, utility-driven deflation. The supply reduction is funded by platform usage, not a finite treasury. It's perpetual.
Okay, pillar one, what's two?
Pillar two is the recursive burn loop through Tuna mode. The platform captures value from the entire ecosystem of tokens it launches, creating a powerful, diversified feedback loop that scales with its own success.
And the third, and maybe most important,
Pillar 3 is the structural rug prevention, the 100% LP burn at graduation. It makes liquidity withdrawal mathematically impossible, which at the end of the day is the only real way to solve the problem of developer trust.
understanding these three pillars is, I think, essential if you're evaluating any new launchpad, not just TUNA. This is the kind of model that raises the bar. It forces you to ask of any new project, what are your hard-coded guarantees, not your promises?
Exactly. It forces developers to make a choice. Do you want short-term control over the liquidity, or do you want long-term investor confidence? You can't have both. TUNA's model forces them to choose confidence.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to take away. We've just analyzed a system with multiple layers of protection, and it really makes you think about the different philosophies for creating stability in this incredibly volatile space.
You basically have two competing approaches. On one hand, you have models based on continuous transactional fees, a small tax on every trade that slowly bleeds the supply down over time. It's a slow, incremental approach.
And on the other hand,
You have what TNA does, a single aggressive structural commitment, the 100% LP burn. It's not a slow bleed, it's a one-time permanent surgical procedure that removes the core problem entirely.
so the question for you to consider is this. When you're trying to tame the wild west of meme coins and DeFi launches, which approach provides a more sustainable foundation for trust?
Is it the slow, steady pressure of a transactional tax that never fully removes the underlying risk? Or is it the instant, irreversible guarantee of a structural lock that solves the trust problem from day one?
Which is more effective? Slow, incremental scarcity, or instant permanent safety? The answer to that will likely shape the future of decentralized finance.
We'll see you next time for the deep dive.